Okay, so today we'll be going over the part 1 of functional user training. You guys have already been through part 2. So this will cover the basic tools, where the part 2 covered the intermediate and advanced tools. These are all the tools that you find in the basic level. So to get started, sorry, it looks like my internet's going to go kind of slow today. If sometimes we have a hard time explaining to others how or what exactly design tools is. So I've come up with a few analogies. One of those being, if your Canvas course is your masterpiece, then design tools are those brushes and paints that help you create that masterpiece. So it's a toolbox on the side that allows you to use more tools to create a more robust and interactive course. Now, there's 3 different tools that design tools is composed of. And the first one that we'll be spending the majority of our time on today is the rich content editor tools. So these help you to style and organize your any content within the rich content editor with little to no HTML or CSS experience. So these tools are available, as I said, in the rich content editor. So they're available on your content pages, your assignments, your quizzes and descriptions, your syllabus, and your announcement pages. And these can be turned on at 3 different experience levels. So by default, all the tools are set at the basic level. And that just allows people to get more comfortable with those tools before we throw in those intermediate and advanced tools. That's why we usually do the basic level first. This is the get in there and start getting familiar with the tools. And then we usually turn on those intermediate and advanced tools. Now, these are extendable, which your institution, I believe, has already done, so we can set these up at a sub-account level and to be shared between users. The second tool we'll be going over today is the Upload Embed Image tool. So this is kind of like a Photoshop Lite. It helps you upload, crop, resize, and embed images anywhere in the rich content editor. And then the multi-tool is a tool that helps you build out your course shells rapidly. It also allows you to change things like due dates all on one page. And we do have, if you have any questions about what we're going over today, feel free to just chime in. You can, you're more than welcome to yell out those questions, or we have the chat, or you can wait till the end, whichever works best for you. Now, Design Tools was built around this idea of content blocks. And since you've worked with Kenneth Ware, you have a pretty good understanding of these content blocks already. So the content blocks help you to chunk your information. It helps you to break up those pieces of information to make it more digestible for your students. So a typical content block will be set up as such as this. So you have the heading and then the content underneath. And then these multiple content blocks are housed within this Design Tools wrapper. So you'll end up having multiple content blocks housed within this Design Tools wrapper. Anything within that Design Tools wrapper is what the style that you are creating is applied to. So you'll have a beginning and an end that you'll be able to see visually within your within the rich content editor, and then you'll see these different blocks housed within that wrapper. This page here has an example of one of our themes, which has that alternating grayscale and white background, just to help your students visually break up that information. So if my computer will let me, we're going to go into some previews of what your themes will look like. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll through some of these. Maybe. Okay, so as I scroll through these, I'm just going to do this quickly, you'll see that you're getting a different look and feel of the material. So you're giving your designers and your faculty some flexibility on and allowing them some creativity in how their courses look. But for your students, It's allowing them to get in there, and it's allowing them a sense of continuity. So they're able to jump in there and know exactly where to go. They're not having to learn how to re-navigate through their courses each time a new semester starts. So on this page, we have a few, actually we have a preview of the tools we'll be going over today. So we'll be learning how to add in content blocks. So we'll learn how to add in your own content blocks that you create yourself, and then we'll take a look at how to add in institutional template blocks, which we'll learn how to build those in that admin course that we'll be going in later, the next training, I believe. So with the institutional blocks, you can create these template blocks such as objectives and readings, just pieces that you regularly add in to your content or you want your faculty to add in, so that they just have to click a button and they don't have to stylize this every time that they want to add in a content block. We'll be going over the basic styling tools, so we'll be taking a look at images and how to add borders and reshape and resize those images. We'll take a look at turning buttons into, or I'm sorry, links into buttons. So we have a lot of different button styles that you can choose, and it's just as easy as a click of the mouse to apply these different button styles. Then we'll be taking a look at how to style your tables. So there's a variety of different table styles you can choose from, as well as an alphanumerically sortable table. We'll be looking at list types. So ordered and unordered lists, we have a variety of styles that you can choose from for both of those, as well as a way to easily mix and match those styles to create more complex lists for your students. Now, between design tools and Canvas, we have, I've lost track now, I believe it's over 1,800 different icons that you can add, just to give your content just a little bit of visual appeal, some flair, a little bit of decorative style to your content. So we'll be going over each one of these today. And the first thing we're going to start off with is just taking a look at the interface and how it's set up. Now, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this, but hopefully you'll learn a few new tricks today. So it looks like we have this hidden. So maybe. Sorry, my computer's just being very slow. Okay, so with this top bar here, this is what we call the jump menu. And I'm going to go ahead and go in and turn off those advanced tools right now and refresh my page. So that top menu of the toolbar is what we call the jump menu, and it just gives you the ability to move quickly within the different pieces of the Design Tools toolbox. So you'll always have the option to work with your content blocks, or you can change the theme. This is on here because we're in this block here right now. You also have the option to start with to work with your current element styles. So since I have my mouse within the stylized heading right now, I have that theme and that change your banner text tool open. Now, depending on where you're at in your rich content editor, where your mouse is at, or your cursor is at, this will actually update with the tools that are available in that section. So you'll notice as we go to different parts of the content that this jump menu will update depending on where you're at. The second bar here, the views bar, gives you a couple different views of your content. So by default, it's set at the blocks view. And what the blocks view does is it gives you a little bit deeper look into your content. So you see things like the Design Tools wrapper. Here's the beginning of it, and down at the bottom, we'll find the end. So anything within that wrapper is what the style is applied to. And then you'll notice that you have different outlines. So your content blocks will have these double blue outlines around them, and your paragraphs will have this grayscale or this little light gray background. And just depending on what you're working with, the columns have this double outline here. You'll be able to see what those different elements are. So this is very helpful. If I was to add in a couple couple spaces after this overview, just hit enter a couple times, you'll see here that you have, you can tell that you have empty paragraphs that you're working with. And you can put your cursor in there and work in those paragraphs or delete those paragraphs, whatever you need to do with that space. If we were to go over to the browser view, you'll notice that all of those outlines have been removed. So now it's unclear what this space is. So it's a little bit, you have to figure it out yourself. So the blocks view does give you that deeper look into your content, that structure of your content. With the browser view, this is an approximate view of what your students will see when they're viewing the page as it's saved. I say approximate because it doesn't build out some of the things like some of the dynamic elements like tabs and accordions, but it does give you a really good idea of the flow of your content and what your students will see once this page is saved and they're viewing it. The third view here is the app view. Now, just like the browser view, this is an approximate view. So Design Tools is scalable all the way from a small smartphone screen up to a full-size desktop. So the app view gives you an idea of what your content will look like if your students are viewing it on a very small, like let's say smartphone screen. Now, again, this is approximate because it doesn't build out those dynamic elements, but also depending on if you're working with an Android or iOS, they have different native styles to them, so that could change it slightly also. The last view here is the no style. So this is what it would look like if you had all of that complex styling stripped out and just had the very vanilla HTML. So this is what your students would see if you were to send this content to an EPUB or if they were to view your content offline. Now, this is also helpful when you're working with a lot of complex styling and you're having a hard time getting into exactly where you want to be. This strips out that styling so you can jump right in there and work with that piece. Most of the tools within the toolbox have a little help link down here at the bottom. Now, the help link, it takes you to the user guide and just some information on how to work with that tool or tips on how to create that type of content. So as I said, most of the tools will have this little help area here. The rest of the Design Tools toolbox is where the real meat of Design Tools is housed. So this is where you can start adding in content blocks. You can create and edit your content, such as adding in themes or images. Banner images. You can customize the style. So this customize the style allows you to work with images, links, lists, and tables. So if I was to go down, I'm going to switch back over to a better view here. If I was to go down and select an image here, you'll notice that that customize the style will update with tools to work with that image. We also have check accessibility, which we'll be getting into today, which gives you 3 different tools to work with the accessibility on a page-by-page basis, and a Get Help section, which we'll be going over at the end of the training today. So, any questions at all on the layout of Design Tools? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this page. So now we're going to get into building out some content. This is just a list of all the different things we'll be touching on today. So since we're going to go through each one of those, I'm just going to skip that page and jump right into creating some content. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. And the first thing you want to do when you're creating a page, you're starting to work with a page, is you want to add in a theme. So the theme button is, you'll find that in the jump menu as a little puzzle piece. So I'm going to go ahead and select that theme. And now I'm given a number of different themes that I can add to my content. So you'll notice I have a bunch of colored buttons down here. And as I hover over them, you'll see that you get a preview of what this theme will look like. So with a basic page, which we're on the basic pages right now, you'll see that you get that heading and then you get a style to your different content blocks there. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. And you'll see that that stylized heading has been added in. And you'll see the beginning and the end of the Design Tools wrapper here. So now that I have that in there and I have that Design Tools wrapper in place, I'm going to go ahead and add some content blocks. So I'm going to click on this Add Content Blocks up here, and I get this little pop-out, which gives me, you'll see here, you have the institutional block templates. So as I said, the institutional block templates is what you'll learn to create once we get to that admin training course. I'm just going to go ahead and add some of these blocks in. So I'm just going to click these, and you'll notice as I select them, they're added within the Design Tools wrapper here. And then I also need to add in one of my own that I want in this course. So if there's one that you want to add in yourself, what you can do is you can go up here to create new content block, and I'm going to type in current events. And I'm going to hit enter or that green plus, and it will add in my own custom content block down here. I'm going to go ahead and close out this add blocks. And you'll notice over here that all of the content blocks you've added to this page are now over here in your toolbox. So you'll notice that the custom content block I created doesn't have a matching icon because this is one I created myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this little gray change icon box, and this custom icons area will pop up. And I know I want something like a newspaper. So I'm going to go ahead and type news in there. And it'll come up with any of the icons that have been categorized this way. So I'm going to go ahead and select this little newspaper, and now you can see that that icon has been added into my content. You also have the option, and we'll look at this later, a little bit more later, but you also have the option to just look through different categories or to look at all of the Font Awesome icons here. If you didn't like any of the icons here, you would go ahead and select that and change it out the same way. The other great thing with this content blocks area is that you can rearrange. So you can drag and drop these different content blocks and put them in the order that you want them to. Or let's say you decided you didn't want an objectives area. You could go ahead and hit this little red X here, and that content block is completely removed from the rich content editor. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the front pages. So I'm going to go back up to theme, and instead of the basic page, I'm going to choose front page. And you'll notice as I move back and forth from one to the other that this button list changes slightly. And that's because some of the themes are only available as front page themes. And we'll get into why that is in just, or which themes that are, those are in just a little bit. But again, if I hover over these different buttons, you'll see that you get a preview of what these different themes are going to look like. So with the front page themes, you still have that stylized heading, but you also have your banner image and then some navigation items underneath there. So the other thing to watch out for with the front page is that you'll notice you have this little blue information block underneath the preview. This information block is telling you if the banner image recommends a 10:3 ratio, or now we have this orange block here if it requires a 10:3 ratio. And we'll get in, I'll show you some of those that require the 10:3 ratio in just a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and select one of these for the page right now. And you'll notice that that stylized heading, the banner image, and the navigation items have been added here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and choose this one. All right, so now that we have that the front page heading in there, we can start to work with some more of the tools. So first thing we can do is we can customize that banner text. Let's say we want this to say city, and then we can tab through this menu here, labs, and then maybe something like welcome. Maybe we want a subtitle or a description. But you know what, we decided, yeah, we don't really need that description. We can go ahead and clear that out. And you'll notice as I fill these areas in or delete them, they're actually removed from your heading here. The other thing that you have here that you can turn on or off, and it's off by default, is this Show Canvas Title toggle. So with this toggle button, a couple years ago, Canvas started adding in large headings at the top of their pages. And we found when you're using design tools, you already have a stylized heading at the top of your page. So most of our institutions don't want to have that, that duplicate title. So by default, this is turned off. If for some reason you did want to show both of those titles at the top of your page, you can just turn that on and off right there. The next thing we have to work with the front page themes is choosing a banner image. So once I go to choose banner image, you'll notice that I have the default image set here, but I also have another image that your institution has added in. And just by selecting any of these institutional images, it changes your image here in the banner image area. You'll notice that you have different categories for your images. Kenneth still does have some of his in here too, just to give you some more ideas on creating banner images. But your faculty members can select any of these that are housed here. They also can choose images that are within their course files. So they could choose something like this, and you can see here where these are actually institutional images and these are course files. So they can go through and select any of these and change the image in their banner image area there. Now, we find that a lot of our faculty and designers, when they're creating a front page for their courses, they actually want to have something that shows a little bit of their personality or just describes their course a little bit more. So we have that upload embed image tool that we can use at this point. I can go ahead and select this image here. And I can go up here to this little blue icon, the Upload Embed Image tool. Now, if your institution has a number of LTI tools, then this tool will actually show up under a blue V icon. So you would just hover over that and then look at your other LTI tools and choose that Upload Embed Image tool. I'm going to go ahead and select this Upload Embed Image tool. I'm going to go to choose an image, and I'm going to choose an image from my laptop here. So now that I've chosen an image, I know from that preview of this specific theme that it recommends you to have a 10:3 ratio. So I can go down here to this choose aspect ratio, and I can choose 10:3 or a number of other different ratios if I was going for a different look. But it'll create this cropping section for me. And now I can drag that area. I can pull it open and crop out a larger section. I can also play with the tool and, or play with the buttons down here. If my image was cockeyed, I could straighten it out. I could use my keyboard to move my cropping tool around. I can also choose the image size. So if I wanted a specific size, I could do that here. The other thing you have, other information you have here is this little box down here. So what this is telling you is that currently, as this image is cropped, it'll fit 100% of the Canvas content width without distorting. This is something that's very important to banner images because they do scale the full width of your content. If I was to, if I had a lesser quality image, or if I was wanting to just crop out a very small section of this image for some reason, you'll notice that this changes down here. So it turns orange or red depending on the type or the width of the percentage that it reaches. So currently, if I was trying to crop out this very small section, it would only fill 49% of the Canvas content width, and then it would start pixelating and distorting. So I'm going to pull this back out, and this is cropped the way I want it to look. I'm going to go ahead and hit this crop and resize image. I now have the option to change the file name. If this was a file that, if there was already a file with the same name in there, I could overwrite it or rename it. I also have the option to download this to my computer. I could simply upload it to my Canvas files. But what I'm going to go ahead and select is upload it to my Canvas files and embed it in that image area that I have selected right now. So it's going to make some calls to Canvas and find out when, make sure it's available for you. And now I have that image embedded into my Canvas content. Okay, the next area we can work with on our front pages are the navigation blocks here. So built into Canvas, we have these 4 options, but you can change these. If you wanted this to say something like begin here, you can change the text here. You can also change those icons just as we did with the content blocks. You can drag and drop just like you could with the other content blocks, or delete them if you wanted to. Now with the navigation area, you can have up to 8 different navigation items here. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 more navigation items just by hitting this add item up here. And you'll see I now have these 2 new items that have been added in. I could change their text here. I can go in and I can add in some icons. So let's say I just wanted to throw some arrows in here. So that those icons or those navigation items match up with my other navigation items on this page. You'll also notice that we have some broken links here. So whenever you're creating navigation items, these are actually set up as links. So that's where we need to take a jump back and look at how to properly update links with Canvas, because we find a lot of institutions don't do it correctly, which creates a little bit of a mess within the code in Canvas. So in order to create a new link, a brand new link with this text here, we would go ahead and highlight the text, and then we could go to course navigation or add in a URL and create that brand new link just by selecting any of those. So now we have an active link. The problem we find is when users are trying to update a link. So a lot of times users will go back through and they'll highlight it and they'll try to choose a new link. The problem comes when they're creating links that are taking them outside of Canvas. If you highlight it and update that link, you'll actually have these little arrows and boxes that'll show up after that link depending on how many times you've tried to update it. And that's because there's remnants of that old link left behind. The proper way to update a link within Canvas is to put your cursor in the link you're trying to update. Don't highlight, just put your cursor in that link and choose the new destination. So again, if you're creating a new link, you highlight it. If you're updating an existing link, you just put your cursor within that link and choose the new destination. So since these are already links that need updated, I'm going to go ahead and just choose some. I'll just throw in a link there. And then you'll notice that those broken link items are still there. But if I go up here to the refresh list, you'll now see that those are now active links. The other thing we have to work with within navigation is the split list area. So I'm going to go back up real quick just to choose a theme, and I'm going to choose a different theme right now. I'm going to choose one of those themes that requires that 10:3 ratio. Now the reason this requires the 10:3 ratio banner image is because it has the navigation items that hover over your banner image. So you'll see that within the rich content editor, this looks a little bit different, but when you look at the preview, this is how your students are going to see it. So these navigation areas will actually scan the full scale of the picture, the full length of the picture. So with these navigation items here, this would drive us a bit crazy because you have an uneven amount of items on each side. So you can go up here to the split list and say you want to split it at 3, and then you have an even amount of navigation items on each side. Now, with these hovering themes, the reason that it's required that it has a 10:3 ratio is because if the image was shorter and you had a number of navigation items here, they would actually hover down over your text, making it very hard for your students to read. Any questions at all on adding in content blocks or updating the front page or the themes? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this page then. A couple more things about the Upload Embed Image tool are that you can use the Upload Embed Image tool anywhere in your content. So not just in your banner image area, but if you want to upload and embed an image in a different part of your content, you would just put your cursor there and use the Upload Embed Image to put it in at that point. The other piece with the Upload Embed Image tool is that it's available to everyone at your institution. So for students, if they want to upload and embed an image into an assignment or a discussion, then that image would actually be saved to their personal files. If you have a course admin, so if you have faculty or a designer that's uploading an image to a specific course, it would be saved to that actual course's files. So that's just a couple more things to remember with that Upload Embed Image tool. Any questions about the Upload Embed Image tool at all? All right, so we're going to get into the multi-tool now. I'm going to go over to a blank course that I have open here. And I'm going to go over to the navigation tab. So I'm in settings. I'm going to go into the navigation tab and I'm going to scroll down and you'll see I have the multi-tool here. I'm going to right click and enable it or just drag it up into the active navigation menu. And I'm going to hit save down here to save that. You'll now see that I have the multi-tool here in my left-hand navigation. Now, this is not visible to students at all. This is only visible to your course admins. I'm going to go ahead and select the multi-tool. And then you'll see that I have a few more tools to work with. So I have templates, I have a module builder, and I have a due date modifier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the templates. And on this page, if I know you guys have worked with Canvas for a while, so you know it takes a couple of steps to jump around in creating your front page and publishing it. So with the templates tool here, you can go ahead and create your home front page, which will make sure the page is published and marked as the front page. And then there's an additional button here to make sure that this home link is set as your front page. So I'm going to go ahead and select that button too. You also have the option to edit your front page here, but we're not going to mess with that for right now. Now, below here, you'll notice you have this template section. So this is where you start to think about when you're building out your course, what you want your typical course to look like. What is going to be reoccurring in those modules on a week-to-week basis? And this is where you start building those pieces out. So let's say in your course, each week is going to have an introduction page. Now I can go ahead and hit enter, or I can click on this create template button. And each course is going to, or each module is going to have a lab assignment and a group discussion. Oops, I want that down there in the discussions. And an end of unit quiz. Now, as I added these in, you'll notice that these existing templates have been created down here. And now I can click on these and start building out these templates. So as I select these different existing templates that have been created for me, it's going to open it up in a new tab, and it's going to have it already in editing mode for me. So with this intro template that I'm putting in all of my modules, first, when you create any page, you're going to go ahead and add in that theme. So the first thing you're going to do is select the theme. So it's added in that theme. And I'm going to go ahead and add some content blocks. So you're just going to build out this page how you, just as how you want that page to look in each module. So whatever tools you normally use to build that out, you can do that here. So if you use the native tools or design tools, feel free to use any of those here. I'm going to go ahead and add in an intro and some readings and some lectures and assignments. And this is how I want that intro page to look on a weekly basis. I'm not going to update any of the text here because I'll show you that this will actually be updated once I pull these into my modules. So whenever you're creating templates, you don't want to update the text here. All right, so I have this built out. Now I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to go ahead and close out that page there. And I'm going to go back to the multi-tool. All right, now I would go through and build out all of these templates. Let's say I have all these templates are built out just for the sake of time. And I'm going to go up here to the module builder. So now with the module builder, I'm thinking about just the basic shell of my course, how I want this course set up. Now, I want these different modules I have in my course to be called maybe units, and I want there to be 3 of them. And each week I want there to be a page, and that's going to be that introduction page, and it's going to be built off that introduction template that I created. And I want there to be an assignment. That assignment's going to be built off that lab template I created. I want it to be submitted online, and it's going to be worth 50 points. And it's going to be displayed as a points value to my students. Now, when you're creating those assignments and discussions, you can add in all of those details that you would normally add in when you're creating an assignment page or a discussion page. So if you typically add in threaded discussions, you can set those in those templates also. So I also want there to be a discussion, and it's going to be that built off that group template, and that's going to be worth 20 points. And end of unit quiz. And I guess that template didn't get saved. All right, so this is the basic layout of what I want my modules to look like on a week-to-week basis. I can go ahead and hit this generate module list. The other thing I can do is, I'm going to go ahead and generate this now. But you do have the option to use the indent levels if you typically use those in your module setup. So maybe I want everything indented under this intro here. I can go ahead and indent that if I wanted to at this point. But I'm just going to take that off so I can show you something in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and generate this module list. And you'll now see that I have Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3 listed out here. This is where you start going in and fine-tuning those individual modules. So let's say Unit 1, I don't want an end-of-unit quiz. It's week 1. I decided I don't need a quiz that week. But I do want there to be an extra discussion because I want them to introduce themselves to each other. So I can go ahead and add in that extra discussion here. This week 3, they're actually going to have an additional quiz because they're going to have a final exam that week. So that's where you go in and you start adding in those extra pieces that you might need on a week-to-week basis. This is also where I'm going to show you how the indent tool works. So if I go ahead and indent these in this module, we'll compare that to the second module. The other thing you have here is when you create these pages, it'll say Unit 1 Intro, and then you'll see down here it says Unit 2. If I want to just have it say Assignment 1 and not have that Unit 1 prefix there, I'm just going to go ahead and unclick a couple of those so that you can see what it'll look like if we were to uncheck that box. So at this point, you could go ahead and save progress. If you wanted to work on it at a later time, you could come back in and work with this outline of your course. Just be aware that you'll notice down here that progress will be deleted after 2 weeks of activity. So this is just kind of an outline for your course. If you come back in and work on it here, you'll have an additional 2 weeks. So each time you come in and work on this page, it'll update that 2 weeks. You'll have an additional 2 weeks. So let's say this is how we want our course to look. I'm going to go ahead and add these modules to the course. And right now, it's creating all those individual pieces. So in the past, it would our faculty members would come in and talk to our instructional designers, and it would they'd sit there and talk about the course shell and how they want the course laid out for an hour. And then it would take the instructional designer all afternoon or even a couple of days to get this course shell built out. Now it's building all of those pieces out within a matter of minutes. So we now have all 3 of these modules, and you can go in and if you needed to add something in or change something, you can do that here. If you wanted to add in additional modules, maybe we decided, you know what, we need actually 5 different units. So we can add in units, say we want to add in 2, and since we already have units 1 through 3, we actually want this to start at Unit 4, the new one to start at Unit 4, and we can add in those pieces again. And then generate the module list, and it'll add in units 4 and 5 for us here. So I'm going to go over to my modules and just show you what it looks like over here. Now, all of those different pieces have been added in for me. So I have units 1 through 3, and I have these different pages created, and they're ready for me to start putting in my content. Now, I told you with those templates, you don't want to update the title, and that's because if we go into this page here that we pulled the introduction template into, you'll notice that it updated with Unit 1. So Unit 2 will be updated with Unit 2. You'll also notice that those indents I added in are showing up here, and where I unchecked that box that was next to it where the Unit 1 was removed, you'll see where the Unit 1 is still there versus not there. So just some different ways you can fine-tune your modules at that point. All right, so I'm going to jump back over to the multi-tool. Any questions at all on building out those templates or that rapid build out, that module builder? Okay, I'm going to go into the due date modifier now. And this is what usually gets rave reviews by faculty members. They typically love this. So this is where all of those assignments, discussions, and quizzes are listed on one page here and are ready for you to update. So Canvas does a really good job about rolling over dates, but there's always some of those dates where there's a holiday thrown in there, or maybe you have a conference coming up and you don't want something due at that time. There's always some of those dates that you have to go in and fine tune. So with this due date modifier, you can go in and add in your due dates, but you also have some filters here. Let's say your faculty member had all of their discussions set to be due on a Monday, but they decided, you know what, that's not working for my students, so I want to change all of those to a Wednesday. They can filter out all of those discussions and quickly work through and just update all of those to Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and clear the filters for now. And this is where you can go through and start updating all of your due dates. So you just click on this box here, and let's say I want this due next Wednesday. It's going to be, I actually want this due at 11:59 p.m. So I can enter in a custom time here. I want it available starting Monday, and I want it available until Friday. and I can choose pre-entered times on the half hour, and then I can go in and update. We do recommend that you go through and update each one, especially if you have a decent sized list. If you just have one or two, there is the update all at the bottom too. Now, there's even an easier way to do this. So we can set default times. Let's say I want every assignment to be due at 11:59 p.m. and I want them all to be due and locked at that time. Now, when I go in and I select a date, it'll automatically enter in that time for me, so I don't have to go through and manually fix every single time. So that's a big time saver too. The other piece within the due date modifier is the set blackout dates. Now, let's say you have, let's see, we have a holiday coming up, one of these sometime in here. So let's say next Monday is a holiday, and we have a conference that we're going to be gone these days here. And then maybe just in general, we don't want things due on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, if we go down and look at a due date or any date here, you'll notice, and I guess I selected a lot there. Sorry about that. You'll notice that you have these grayed out backgrounds for any of those dates that you selected. And that's just a visual reminder. There we go, that one shows up. So that's just a visual reminder for those of us that are really forgetful that, hey, there was something going on that day, and maybe I need to take a look and see what was due or what I'm doing that day. Maybe I don't want to have something due. So this is a user by user basis for now. So your faculty members will have to update it for themselves. It's not something that you can push out university-wide. Any questions on the due date modifier? All right, I'm going to jump back over to the course we're working our way through. Another way you can pull in and build out content is through the copying existing content tool. Now, Kenneth just made some great changes to this copying existing content tool. So before you would only be able to copy in pages, but now you can actually copy in assignments and discussion descriptions too. The copy existing content is this little orange icon up here. I'm just going to go ahead and select that orange icon, and it pulls open this tool for me. And this is where, if I had templates built out within my course, I could go and look at the template pages and pull in that template. The one thing you want to be aware of, though, when you're using this copying existing content tool and templates in general, is that you want to use these as a starting point for your content building, because these will overwrite anything that's currently within the rich content editor. So these are a starting point rather than revamping your current content and fitting it into a mold. This is something you always want to start with as a template. So you can see it pulled in that basic template shell. I can also choose different pages within my course. I can choose institutional templates. So if there's some templates that have been set up at an institutional level, such as the Start Here page that USU uses, it'll pull that in for me. And that's something we'll take a look at when we are going through that admin course next time. And you can also pull in content by URL. So let's say you have a page from another course, just a single page that you wanted to pull over. I'm going to go back in and pull in this copying existing content example. The thing you want to be aware of when you're pulling in content by URL is that you want to have those specific page identifiers there. So you'll notice you have this page's home here. You want those specific page identifiers. Something like this, where it's just a course code, will not work, and you'll get a warning message letting you know that that page is not able to be pulled in. The other thing you want to be very aware of when you're working with the copying content by URL is linked assets. So if you have any images or PDFs or anything on that page that you're trying to pull in, you need to make sure that those linked assets are either saved on an external server or you have downloaded them and uploaded them into your current course. The reason for this is that Canvas really likes to break those links to linked assets. So for you as an instructional designer or as a faculty member, those images and those other linked assets may show up for you, but for your students, because they don't have access to that previous course, they'll show up as broken images and won't be visible. So again, you always want to make sure any linked assets are uploaded to an external server or are actually saved in your current course files. Any questions on pulling in existing content? All right, so we've gone through all the different ways that you can pull in content and create content. Now we're going to get into some of the simple styling features. I'm going to go ahead and edit this page, and we're going to go to Customize the Style. And as I said, the Customize the Style updates depending on what you're working with in your content. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is images. So I'm going to go to Customize the Style, and this area is for images, links, tables, or lists. And I'm going to go ahead down here and select this image. And you'll notice once this image is selected, you receive the tools to work with it here. So you can add in alt text if you want to. Right now it's set as a decorative image, and what this does is it flags it for Canvas's own accessibility feature here. You can change the size of this image. So let's say we actually wanted this to be maybe 280. It'll shrink that up. We have some aligning tools over here. So you also have the option to align here within the native tools. But notice when you do this, especially this one here, that the text is butted right up against the edge of that image. This is not usable to some certain learning disabilities, but even just for good design, this is not something that's visually appealing and is difficult to read, difficult for the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, and I'm going to go over here and select the same thing. And now you'll see when you're using design tools to align that image, your image is given some breathing room. Or your text is given some breathing room. So there's some padding in between there to make that much more user-friendly for your students. You also have a number of different image styles, so you can select any of these and see what that image will look like. So maybe we want to have this rounded with a border. We can go ahead and select that. And then there's these two toggle items here. So let's say this image here, we always want it to fill the width of our Canvas content. We can go ahead and turn on this toggle, and now that image will always fill its container. With the max width fill, maybe we have an image that's just smaller to begin with, lesser quality, and we don't want this to ever scale to a point where it's getting pixelated and hard to view. So we can turn on this max width fill, and we can change the sizes if we wanted to. But now this image will never scale beyond the max size that you've set for it. So it'll still be responsive. It'll still scale down to a smaller size if needed, but it'll never be stretched out to a point where the image is unclear and pixelated. All right, so now we're getting into some of the links. Again, when you're creating a new link, you highlight the text and you choose a destination for it. When you are updating a link, you put the cursor within that existing link and you choose a destination for it. Now you can change the text for a link within the Design Tools toolbar here. So maybe I wanted this to say test. I can change it here and it'll be reflected over here. If I want to change the URL, I can also do that. If I want my link to open in a new tab, I can put my cursor anywhere within this link and select this toggle over here that opens, will set my link to open in a new tab. So Canvas does a pretty good job of this when you're taking, if you want a link to take you outside of Canvas, but a lot of times it's, if you're trying to get to another page within Canvas, it'll open up in the same tab. So by setting this, you're sure that your links are always taking you to a new tab. We also have this feature here where you can indicate if the link has been visited. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on this indicate visited for this link and also for this link here. And you'll notice those that haven't been visited have this little orangey yellow icon, and the ones that have been visited are green to give your students a go. So Kenneth, when he created this tool in one of his courses where he ditched the textbook and had a lot of open resource materials. So we had a long list of links for his students to look through each module. So what this did was it gave them a visual idea if they had visited that link or not. When you're working through a page, something like, or a website such as W3 Schools, where it has its own navigation within it, it'll actually update here and let them know that they visited all those pages. If they skipped a piece, then they know that they visually know that they need to go back and take a look at that. They missed it somehow. This is very helpful if your students are going to sit down and go through this list of links all at once. Where this tool kind of fails at is if your students were to get up and move to a new computer or change browsers. This is not information that's saved by browsers because they don't want people to be able to track where, for instance, where you're banking at. So if your students sit down and work through their modules at one time, this is a great tool for them. Otherwise, it won't track that information if they were to move somewhere else. We can also give our links an icon. So I can put my cursor within that and I can choose any icon and it'll add it to the beginning of that link there. I can make my link a button. So there's a variety of different button styles here that you can choose from, as well as some hover states. I can also change my, my button size and style. So if I wanted a different size button, or if I wanted a block button that scaled my page, I can add that in too. The next thing we're going to look at is stylizing tables. So you're still going to add tables in the same way. So we're going to go up here to the native tool and add in a 4x4 here. So you're still adding in those tables the same way. The problem came for faculty members when they had to go in and update the properties. So they would have to go in and change the row properties or the cell properties and update the scope. And it was a very time-consuming process for the faculty members to build out those tables exactly how they wanted them to be. Now with design tools, when you have a table here open, it pulls in those tools over here in the customize the style. And we can go in, we're going to work with this little table here, and we can put our cursor anywhere within this table. It'll pull open those tools. And we can set a head row, or we can set a head column. And this table in particular has a total row at the bottom. So I can go ahead and set a foot row. I can make it alphanumerically sortable, and I can add a table caption up at the top. And here is where you can start adding some styles in. So let's say I just wanted a basic style, or I wanted a hover state on my different rows here. Maybe I wanted an alternating gray and white scale just to help my students see where they're at within their tables. Or maybe I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. And then you have these legacy styles too. So there's a lot of ways that you can go in here and mix and match and get those tables styled and looking nicely. Now, Canvas added in, made an edit a couple months ago now where all of the cells, when you're creating tables, are the same size. Rarely do we find that we want all the cells in our tables to be the same size. So you have the option here to go in and work with pixels or percentage and get those columns set up the way you want them to be. Next piece we have are the lists. So there's several ways to indent lists. One of them being you can use the tab key, or you can use the indent key up here. But you also have the option to use indent over here. And this just gives you another way to indent your list, and it keeps you from having to hover rainbow back and forth across your page. Now, changing the list style is very easy. So I can put my cursor anywhere within this list, and we'll look at this is the ordered list styles. So there's a variety of different ordered list styles you can choose from here, as well as the unordered list style. So there's a few of those you can select from too, some different discs. Or maybe you just want a simple indented list. You can choose this none here, and it'll remove that style and just make it a very simple indented list. If you wanted to go back to your original style, you can hit this X button and it'll remove that for you. And then with the mix and match styles, maybe this level here, we want it to be an uppercase Roman numeral, and the second level, we want it to be a lowercase alpha. And the third level, we want to just have an unordered list style with bullet points there. So it allows you to get in there and make those complex list styles very easily. Now, if you wanted this list to start at a different number, like maybe we want this, I'm just going to switch this to there just to make it easy. Maybe we wanted this list to start at 3 because we had some content in between here. You can change where that list style so that you can enter in content and restart that list. You can also start the list. Maybe we want this to actually be 2. So it gives you some flexibility in there to easily work with that list that was pretty difficult to work with in the past. You can also create pill lists. So Kenneth just added this feature in because it was easy and fun for him to add in. He wasn't really sure how institutions were going to use it. But if I go ahead and select this pill list here, you'll see that it's created this little horizontal list here. Now, we actually found that institutions were using it quite often, but they were turning it into a navigation link list, or horizontal navigation. So he added in this basic nav link. So if I go down here to this list here, we have links and we have a list. I'm going to go ahead and just put my cursor in here. You'll notice that this will actually update with both the link tools and the list tools. So now I'm going to go back down to these list tools, and I can turn on this basic nav links, and you'll see that you now have this horizontal navigation link list here. So as I just showed you, depending on what you're working with in your content, you may have multiple tools here to work with. For instance, if you had an image that was a link in a list, then you would have the image link and image tool over here in your toolbar. Any questions at all on any of the basic styling features we went over for images, tables, lists? Okay, so we're going to jump into working with iframes. Now, the majority of the ways we see people add in video to Canvas is through iframes. So we have some tools to work with those. And when there are iframes on your page, I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. This page does take a little bit of time to load usually because there are a number of iframes on it. When you have iframes on the page, you'll get a new icon up in that jump menu to work with those iframes. Now, iframes are a pain to work with normally because you can't select them, you can't really do anything with them because they automatically start playing if you were to select them, which can be pretty annoying. So when you're working with design tools and you have iframes on your page, all of the iframes will be listed out within your design tools toolbar, and you can work your way through them and update them and style them the way you want them to be without having to deal with them in the rich content editor. So this is the iframe icon up here. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And on my page, I have a lot of different iframes. So you'll notice I have iframe 1 and I have them all listed out here in my toolbar. So as you go to each one, it'll focus in on that particular iframe so you know which one you're working with. You can update the source code if you wanted to. You could change the size. Maybe we want this to be 450 and we want to wrap the text around it, or we wanted to center it or right align it. Maybe we want it to scale proportionately. Now you'll notice that when you're within the rich content editor, you won't see that scale proportionately or the fill width. But once your page is saved and you're viewing it, a saved page, then you'll be your students will be able to see that functionality. So you can work down through your list and update those. You can also delete an iframe. So if there was an iframe you decided you didn't want, all you have to do is hit this X and it'll delete the iframe from your page. If your institution works with some pages such as H5P, which gives your faculty members some cool tools to work with, such as just some interactive pieces, then that's what h5p.org does. But when you're working with a website like that, it has its own set of rules for its iframes. So you'll have this little message down here that tells you that it'll automatically have those settings with it already. So you do have the option to change that source code or to delete that item, but you don't have all the other advanced tools that you do for some of the pieces of, or some of the iframes that don't already have all those rules built into them. Any questions on working with iframes at all? Okay, so now we're going to get into the accessibility tools. A lot of accessibility tools out there deal with or are course level accessibility tools. So they search your whole course for accessibility issues. With design tools, we're helping you build accessible pages from the start. So as design tools opens up, it's searching your page to see if there's any accessibility issues that it's finding. Now, Kenneth has built in a lot of different aspects to the accessibility tool, but it's always a good habit to go in there and look at it each time you're building a page. So if it finds anything it feels like it might be an issue for accessibility, it'll pull up this little red eye icon over here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this check accessibility, and you'll see it wants me to look at all of these 3 tools within the accessibility feature. So I'm going to start with the heading outline. Once I pull this open, you'll see I have a few alerts here. And these alerts are given to me because I'm skipping heading structure. So when you have a screen reading student, that heading structure is extremely important to them because it lets them know how that material is nested, how it relates to each other. So it's really important not to skip those heading levels. But also, if I scroll down my page and just take a look at this, I notice that I have this heading structure right here. And then I have the try it, but then look at this heading A here. It should be housed underneath my heading structure. So what I can do is I can quickly go through and move out all of these pieces, move in or out as needed. and clean up that heading structure so that it's going to make a whole lot more sense for my screen reading students. The other thing you'll notice with the heading structure outline here is that Canvas only goes up to a header 4. But with the heading outline, you can actually go all the way out to a heading level 6. So if that's something you need to do within your content, you would set it at like a heading 4 and then move it out with your heading outline tool. The next piece we're going to look at is the image check. So this pulls all of your images out into your toolbar here, and it allows you to update your alt text for these images. So the other option you have here is you can set it as a decorative image, which again would flag it for Canvas's own accessibility feature. But like here, it's noticing that this has some default text to it. So I can go in and I can put just from the page that I know this is from, I know this is depicting a rounded image for styling. I can go in and edit that, and then that little warning is removed. So you can easily work down and update all of your alt text for your images here. Now, if your faculty members have any issues with coming up with good alt text for images, if you're going to look at any of the help tools, this one has some great information in it for coming up with alt text for images. The last piece here is the link check. So this isn't checking for broken links. That's something that's already built into design tools, or not design tools, but in Canvas. What this is doing is it's pulling all of your links out of context. So for a screen reading student, this would read something like link, content heading structure, link, image alternative text. And then we get down to some of these that have the red warning icon. It would read link, click here, link more, link, click for details. These are not at all helpful for your students. And we find that faculty members that use link titles such as this do it all the time. Now, if I scroll down to the paragraph where these are housed, maybe even it's a good design practice even for just your typical student to have good link text, because maybe they've already gone through the content and they're looking for that one link that they remember they need to go back and look at. And they find these links here and they're like, okay, so what is this? They have to read the sentence before, the sentence after, sometimes the whole paragraph to figure out where that link is going to take them. When something as easy as read the syllabus would have been much more useful for them and for your students that are using screen readers. So that's it for accessibility tools. Do you have any questions on either of these three pieces? So there's a few different things you can, special things that you can add into the syllabus page. I'm going to go ahead and open a new syllabus here and edit it. Now we're creating a new page, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in that theme. But now the special pieces with the syllabus are, if we go to add content blocks, you'll notice that the syllabus has different content blocks that are specific to your course syllabus. And this is something we'll be going over again in the admin course, that you can create these institutional template blocks for your faculty members to pull in. Canvas treats the syllabus as kind of a different beast. So the content blocks for syllabi have their own page within the admin course. So we can add in those special content blocks that will only show up when you're editing a syllabus. The other thing you can do is you can add in your Canvas grading scheme. If your faculty members have already set up their Canvas grading scheme, they'll have this button here telling them to add Canvas grade scheme block. If they don't have a grade scheme set up, it'll give them some directions on how to set up that grade scheme. And you can see by selecting that button, I now have that grading scheme showing up as a content block within my syllabus. If I was to go back through in Canvas and readjust my grade scheme, I could go here to refresh and it would pull in that newest update. The other piece we have is institutional policies. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. It's always this Roman building up here, and I can click on Add Example Policies block. And you'll now notice I have this new outline that we haven't seen before. And this is because this institutional policies block is something that your faculty members can't update. This is something that is set in stone by your institution. So this special content block, the institutional policies, is something we'll be creating in our admin course. And as long as that admin course, the institutional policies page within your admin course is kept up to date, your faculty members will always be pulling in the most recent set revision of your institutional policies and procedures. So we used to have faculty members that would go out searching for these and they'd find an archived catalog and pull that in, or they'd go in and tweak it and write in their own policies in here, which didn't really match with institutional policies, and that could cause some major issues on an administrative end. So that's why this is the one piece within design tools that your faculty members can't update at all. Now, the other great thing about the institutional policies is that each time your faculty members go in to update their syllabus, this will reach out to that page in your Canvas course and update it to that most recent revision of your institutional policy and procedures. So as long as your faculty members are going in and updating their syllabus, you're assured, as long as you have this institutional policies and procedures block in here, that they have that most recent update. Any questions on the syllabus features at all? All right. I'm not sure, since you guys have been using Kenneth Ware, I'm not, you probably have a lot of stylized pages already, but if you have, if you had some pages that faculty members had in their courses that were just very basic, plain HTML, just very vanilla, where you can see this page, it has some images in there, but it's just very basic HTML. You can easily go in and give this page a facelift and have it match the rest of your course, your pages that you're creating. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And I'm going to choose a style for this page, so a theme for this page. So it's added in that theme. And then I'm going to go to Add Content Blocks. And you'll notice you have some options down here. You have this Selection to Block item. So you'll see that you have that Design Tools wrapper in there. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this first chunk of information, and I'm going to hit Select to Block. And once I do that, you'll see that that chunk of information now has its own content block, and it's housed within that Design Tools wrapper. And I can use my Shift key to go through and quickly select all of these different chunks of information and create blocks out of them. So you'll see that all my information is now pulled into my Design Tools wrapper, but you'll also notice when you're updating some existing content like this, you have some of these little orphaned pieces in here. So that's what this Remove Empty is for. It's going to remove any of those empty pieces that were just left behind when you were updating your content. So now everything's been added in to a content block. I'm going to go in and check the accessibility just real quick, because a lot of times when you're updating existing content like that, the heading outline is not correct. So I know that this is my heading and I want everything indented under that. So I have that heading structure set up now. Now, going back to my content blocks here, I have this Add and Rearrange content blocks. Maybe I want this in a different order. I could do that if I wanted to. Maybe I didn't want one of these pieces, I could update that. But you know what, this game designer guy here, so this page was actually pulled in from a Canvas Commons course that you're welcome to visit if you're interested in this. But so for this guy here, I want him, I know he's a game designer, so I'm going to just search game here and see if I can find a little game icon to add in to his heading. And maybe I want to update his image. I'm going to go to customize the style, and I want to change his alt text. And I want to float the text around him, and I want to give him this rounded image with a border. This guy down here, he's also a game designer. I'm going to go back up to create and edit content and give him an icon. Maybe I want to give him some dice here. And for him, I want to float his image to the right and give him a square image with a border. So you can see it just quickly allows you to get in there and update those individual pieces and get your content looking stylized and matching the rest of your images or the rest of your pages. Any questions on styling existing content? All right, I think we're hitting the last page here. Yep, okay. So now we're on the Get Help section. This is the last piece of training today. And down at the bottom of your toolbar, you'll find the Get Help section. You have a few pieces within that Get Help section. So you can view the user guide. If you have any questions about the tools, I'm going to go ahead and select this Get Help and go to user guide. Maybe we wanted to learn about how to stylize our images. We could go in here to customize the style and find that piece in here that helps us to edit the image size and position. And it'll take you to our user guide. The other piece you have here are release notes, or no, sorry, support is first. So with support, you'll learn how to update this once we get into that admin course, but this is a support connection at your institution that your faculty members can get a hold of if they have any questions. The release notes, Kenneth pushes an update or a release at the beginning of each month. So you'll have a link to each of those release notes that he puts out. And this will tell you about any bugs he squashed or any updated features that he's created. So that's a great, if you're wondering what is new each month, that's a great area to check out. We also have this comments, bugs, and suggestions. So this is only visible to your admins. And this is just a quick link to let you get in there and add in a support ticket. So if you were creating something and had an issue, then you can add a support ticket right here from the page. Also, if you find something particularly tedious and you would like to alert Kenneth and it might be something he can fix easily. He loves to hear about those things. He wants to make your life easier and your job more fun. So that's a great way to put any suggestions you have in there too. The last piece here is a list of credits. So as you know, Design Tools started off as an open resource tool. So Kenneth created Design Tools with a lot of different open resource materials, and you just have a quick link to those different pieces here in case you are building your own tool and wanted to know what he used for something. The last part is, the last piece of information is support.citylabs.com. So with support.citylabs.com, if you don't remember that, you can just go to the citylabs.com webpage and there's support link up here at the top. There's some really great information here. So you have access to the support portal, knowledge base articles, discussion forum, but then you also have anybody actually can submit a support ticket through our support portal here. So Again, this is for anything, bugs you find, suggestions, how to work with a tool if you're having any issues with the tool. You can search articles here for how, in case somebody else has asked that question, or you can submit a support ticket here. And that goes to our whole team. Kenneth and I are the ones that answer those questions, but this is the best way. Anything that you have and need to get a hold of us, this is the best way to do that. All of us get these support tickets here. You can also sign up for our customer newsletter, and this will give you some ideas on the new updates and features we have, as well as where to find us on the road. There's a roadmap tool if there's a piece of, if there's a tool that you wish was here, you can always go in and check and see if that's on Kenneth's roadmap for the future. And we do recommend that at least 2 people at your institution have an account set up here with the City Labs support portal. The reason for this is that Kenneth pushes those updates at the beginning of each month, and they don't normally require any action on your end at all. It's just automatic. But occasionally, very rarely, is there something where there's you need to make an action on your side. If you have an account here in the support portal, then we'll send you an email giving you a heads up that, hey, there's something you might need to do this month. But that is everything for Functional User Training 1. Any questions at all on anything we went over today? Did you guys fall asleep?
I think that may be yes. Okay, well then, Peggy and Patrick, I think that I'll just go ahead and finish up this recording, and I'll send you the links. And if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much. Bye, y'all.